be respected when it chose the inscription on a headstone. Not so for the Brown family from Freckleton in Lancashire. When 83-year-old Frederick Brown died, their vicar banned the use of the words dad and granddad. He insisted on the more formal father and grandfather. And today, a Church of England court supported the vicar. Here's our North of England reporter, Harold Jones.
Every week, Charles and Wendy Brown tend a grave without a gravestone, that of Charles's father. To them, he was simply Dad, and that's how they wanted to remember him on his headstone. But the Reverend Stephen Bryan thought the words Dad and Grandad lacked dignity. He preferred father and grandfather on stones in his churchyard, and today a church court agreed.
It's been especially hard on my husband because, you know, it's his dad, and all he really wants at the end of the day was to put up a headstone saying he was he was dad and granddad.
Words used, ironically, on several other headstones in the same graveyard.
Within the family, they will continue to talk of the people as mum, dad, granddad, whatever. But the feeling of the Chancellor was quite clearly that on a gravestone, a public monument, it was better to stick to the formal, because otherwise, where would you stop if you allowed mum, dad? You know, he said, what about nana or pa and so on? It'd be very difficult to draw lines apart from that.
Many a tribute to a dad or a granddad has been carved by this third-generation stonemason. To him, a ban is unthinkable.
Mum, dad, nana, nin, you name it, we've done it.
The Diocese of Blackburn says its judgment is merely a guideline. It does not set a precedent for other churchyards around the country. The Brown family now plans to exhume Mr. Brown's coffin and move it to a churchyard where he can finally rest in peace. Howell Jones, News at 10, Freckleton.
Court has backed their local vicar who claims the slang terms are inappropriate in a churchyard. The family is considering an appeal and say they might have the body exhumed. Paul Crone reports.
When Frederick Brown died aged 83, he was buried at the Holy Trinity Church in Freckleton near Preston. His relatives wanted his gravestone to read, "A devoted and much-loved dad and granddad." The vicar, Stephen Bryan, refused to allow it, saying it was inappropriate. The whole case went before a special Church of England court, which sat last month and finally announced its decision today. The court backed the vicar, agreeing the words dad and grandad are not suitable. The vicar at the centre of the row is on holiday, so Church of England officials explained the ruling.
The feeling of the Chancellor was quite clearly that on a gravestone, a public monument, it was better to stick to the formal, because otherwise, where would you stop if you allowed mum, dad? You know, he said, what about nana or pa and so on? It'd be very difficult to draw lines apart from that.
A several hundred-strong petition opposing the headstone policy at Trinity Church was raised, and feelings have been running high within the Freckleton community. Today's decision means that anyone else who wants to put mum, dad or granddad on a gravestone here at the Holy Trinity Church in Freckleton will be forbidden from doing so. And while regular churchgoers are fully supporting the Reverend Stephen Bryan, the judgment has angered others. Wendy Brown now wants her father-in-law's body exhumed and reburied in a church where she can choose the inscription on the gravestone and not the Church of England.